This is it. The manipulation era begins now. We start this video not with squats or snack foods, but with the first narrative shift. She's discovered a new tool, and it's not accountability, it's not growth, it's grief. This is an emotional look into my past, and for the first time she's trading vulnerability for viewership. And now we are asked to trade sympathy for silence, to watch, cry, and not question. She frames it as a way to get to know her and why she's the way she is. And this is the central thesis of Amberlynn's entire career. Let me explain why I am the way I am. She's not seeking understanding, she is laying groundwork. This is the foundation of all future excuses, contradictions, and failures. Watch closely, because every relapse, every tantrum, every lie, it comes back here to where she's saying, remember what I've been through. She tells us how her parents were drug addicts, they abused each other, neglected each other. The details are grim and the story is horrific. I'm not denying that. This part of Amber's life was undeniably traumatic. The question isn't whether it happened. The question is why now? Why here on a weight loss channel? Why sandwiched between squat updates and perfume tours? Because Amber isn't telling us this to heal. She's telling us this to frame the audience. Criticize me? You're attacking a survivor. Call me manipulative? I'm just damaged. Demand accountability? Look at my pain instead. She mentions how she was taking on the role of being a mother when she was 9 years old, and details a heartbreaking story involving her infant brother nearly strangled by a curtain cord, saved by Amber alone when her parents were unconscious on drugs. It is an awful story, and again, I'm not denying that this is defining trauma. But now that she has the camera on and the lighting soft, she's curating her origin story. It's not for healing, it's narrative insulation. And then she was in foster care, then a children's shelter, then separated from her brothers. And this section's delivered deliberately slowly. The tone softens, the eyes flicker. It's a practiced sadness. It might not be fabricated, but it is selectively deployed. And as she details more loss, one theme becomes very, very clear. Everyone has failed Amber. The world has failed Amber. And so she cannot be expected to succeed. And then her parents got worse, Amber started smoking marijuana, her brother hit her. This part shifts subtly. Every destructive act is framed as inevitable. Her brother hits her, her parents vanish into addiction, Amber smokes, rebels and isolates. And she's never responsible. She's just reactive, forever a product of other people's choices. They lived in a small trailer, she never saw her dad, and people were coming in at night to buy drugs. She paints it all in harsh detail, poverty, absence, criminality, loneliness. It's bleak, and it is tragic. But again, why now? Why here? She's not sharing this as context. She's weaponizing it, to make her audience feel protective and to make criticism feel cruel. This is emotional insulation, disguised as honesty. What we're seeing isn't just a trauma dump. It's the beginning of Amberlynn Reid's emotional economy. She's learning that suffering generates loyalty, and that pain can be presented as proof of innocence. That if you cry often enough, you never have to change. Amberlynn Reid has a tragic past. That is undeniable, but the tragedy now is that she's using it to shield herself from the consequences of the present. And then she tells the story about how her mother had another child and put him up for adoption the day he was born. It's just more tragedy, more loss. Every new revelation is heavier than the last one. More guilt claimed, more siblings lost, more heartbreak wrapped in soft piano music. And yet there's never any reflection. Amber never questions how this is shaping her relationships, her self-worth, her behaviour. It's always the same message. I was abandoned, so I get to act like this. Her parents get worse, more drugs, more separation, another trailer. We're back to the setting, the trailer park, the separate homes, the revolving door of boyfriends, strangers and chaos. It's tragic. But what does she do with this pain? Because she doesn't explore it, she doesn't challenge it. She just hoards it like perfume bottles. She doesn't use her trauma to heal. She uses it to decorate her victimhood. And then she tells us how she told one of her friends that she wanted to die. She didn't want to be alive anymore. That is heartbreaking. But why is this being performed on YouTube? And in the same tone she uses to recommend water flavorings. This isn't a private conversation. It's packaging. It's a script of suffering timed and delivered to disarm. She tells us she wasn't really going to do it. She was just depressed. She didn't need to be hospitalized. And that makes me just a little bit furious. She begins with an extremely serious confession and then undermines it with flippancy and denial. I didn't mean it. I didn't need help. Just having a moment. And this is the hallmark of Amberlynn's emotional manipulation. She'll use trauma to extract sympathy and then minimize it when held accountable. She gets put in a mental hospital, and she says that the people there were mental, but she's not trying to be mean. Just stop. That sentence isn't only insensitive, it really reveals how she views mental health when it's not hers. She positions herself above the other patients. Not like them, not meant to be there. But she was there, and she did need help. And now she's using this moment to quietly say, I'm better than that, I'm different. It's condescending and it's cruel, and it's exactly how Amber operates. She tells us that ever since then, she has never wished that she wasn't alive, but I'm unmoved, because we will see her use this bait again in the future. This isn't the triumphant recovery arc that she thinks it is. This is the performance of a lifetime. The script is airtight. The delivery is soft, shaken and rehearsed, and the goal is immunity. She's telling us everything she's suffered, not to be understood, but to be excused. Because from this point on, every criticism is framed as cruelty. Every demand for accountability is met with this story, and every lie she tells, she'll hide it behind a child's tear-stained memory. And then there's a moment of honesty, one of the few, when she says she never went to school, she just didn't care. She tells us plainly, she gave up, she didn't try. But even here, she cannot hold the weight of her own actions. She didn't fail school because she quit. She failed because life was too hard, and therefore responsibility was optional. This is a familiar pattern in her story. Accountability evaporates when feelings are involved. We learn how she was bullied every single day. She was known as the smelly kid, the fat girl. And this is the most rehearsed paragraph of them all. We're told that the bullying was constant, and it may well have been. But she's relishing this moment. She's said these lines before. You can hear it in the rhythm of her voice. Smelly kid, fat Amber, I just got bigger and bigger. They're sympathy buzzwords, and she's not using them to invite understanding. She's using them to establish emotional immunity. It's not sharing, it's scripting. And then the cops came again, foster care again. And then her choice of word is that it was hard. Not traumatic, not destructive, just hard. And I find that telling. When discussing flavouring of water, she gives you 14 option breakdowns. But when discussing people being ripped from their home by police for the second time, all we get is, it was hard. Because it's not about depth, it's about effect. She wants you to feel bad, but not ask questions. She says when you're caged in, you just have to go with the flow. And this part is important. She paints her foster care and shelters as suffocating, oppressive and isolating. But she doesn't tell us what she learned or what she felt or what she wanted. She uses words like overwhelming and caged and depressing like she's just reading from a trauma checklist. There's no reflection, just curated sadness. But then, suddenly, she's texting a friend saying, I should live with you, and 2 months later, she was. And this is the first pivot, because suddenly her life is about to change. Suddenly she's swept into something new, fast, chaotic, and emotional. She thought she was going to love every minute of it, but she was wrong. And this is the end of part 1, and she's not ending on healing. She's ending on foreshadowing. It's a performance, not a confession. It's a weapon, not a wound. She's not processing pain, she's collecting it, curating it, and deploying it. From this moment forward, every time she's questioned, criticized, or doubted, this is her fallback. but remember what I've been through. And then we're in part 2. She's already taken us through her childhood, her trauma and her grief. And part 2 will cover what she believes is her redemptive arc. A failed foster escape, a family collapse, a move, an abusive relationship, and then finally Crystal, the saviour. She talks a bit more about her foster care, says how she was in several foster homes, even one with her aunt, but nothing was working. And already the narrative is suspicious. Nothing worked, no one helped, every effort failed. Foster homes, group homes, extended family, all presented as uniformly terrible. It's not that she didn't have hardship, she did. It's that no solution was ever good enough. She presents herself not just as a victim, but as beyond help. And that's not storytelling. It's planned and strategic helplessness. And then she admits that all she did was eat. Food was her best friend. And this is a script that we will hear again and again and again. She treats emotional eating not as a symptom, but as proof of pain. I was depressed, so I ate. I was abused, so I ate. I was alone, so I ate. At no point is eating framed as a choice. It's always something that just happens to her. She's weaponizing sympathy to exempt herself from behavior. We hear how she moved to Oklahoma to be with some of her family, and again, it didn't work. Once more, every new location is presented as a promise. Every location ends in collapse, and she never reflects on why. It's always someone else's fault. The family didn't want her, the mother kept using drugs, the hope turned to disappointment. It's never Amber's doing. It's always the setting that fails her. She glosses over real mental illness with such vague wording. I had my first anxiety attack, diagnosed with panic disorder, things were happening. She wants the label, but not the details. She wants the diagnosis, but not the process of living with it. Because naming a new disorder is just getting a new shield. And from now on, any time she feels criticized, she'll reach for these terms like armor. I'm mentally ill, I have BPD, you're triggering me. The words aren't meant to invite compassion. They're used to silence dissent. She goes to visit her girlfriend, and then Amber is kicked out of Oklahoma via text message. A whole new layer of abandonment, a new trauma, a new emotional currency. She remains in Arizona, and suddenly the real horror begins. Her girlfriend's mother hated her, the boyfriend threatened to kill her, she was abused a lot in several different ways. This is the first mention of who we will come to know as Casey, the ex who later becomes the centerpiece of her most disturbing videos, the accusations she'll make in the infamous videos years later. But here she's laying the first seed. Vague abuse, hostile environment, dangerous men. She doesn't tell us what happened, she doesn't tell us who hurt her. She simply says, they hated me, they abused me, I stayed. We know this strategy. Keep it vague, keep it scary, keep it unverifiable. It's the prelude to the lies she's going to tell in a few years. We hear how she slowly started falling out of love with her current girlfriend, and how Crystal changed her life. And that is another pivot point, because she's turned her gaze toward Crystal, the new girlfriend, the first one we get to see on camera. The girl whose quiet, meek personality Amber is currently mirroring, but she's just going to discard it like an outfit pretty soon. Crystal is presented as salvation, but she's not. She's just another mask for Amber to wear. From trauma to idol, from victim to vlogger, her backstory is complete. This is the final act in Amber building her own self-mythology. It's a story that's carefully arranged to evoke sorrow, justification, and immunity. She's telling us why she's broken, she's telling us who broke her, and now she expects obedience. No criticism, no questions, no consequences. With these videos, Amberlynn Reid isn't just a YouTuber. She's a constructed tragedy. She's a persona built from ashes, sadness, and curated flashbacks. But we see through it. Trauma is real. Manipulation built on trauma is revolting. She gives us a sudden, glowing monologue about Crystal. She talks about texting, laughing, falling in love outside Dunkin' Donuts, which is frankly the only relatable detail she's given us. But this isn't love. It's escape. Amber was in a crumbling relationship, living with people who allegedly hated her. And as always, the solution is to run and replace. The next morning, I was getting on a plane, she says, and it's alarming how casually she says it. One day she's in an argument, and the next she's on a plane funded by Crystal's parents. No accountability, no mention of the chaos she left behind, just abandonment and fast forward cloaked in a Hallmark glow. And don't forget, she was still living in Casey's home, still benefiting from the generosity of someone she'd later accuse of assault. But here she simply thanks Crystal's parents for the flight and refers to them as the parents she never had. And then she's back on the script. Crystal's family isn't just kind, they're saviors. They made her want to lose weight, they're the reason she's trying, they're the only thing between her and total collapse. It's a disturbingly familiar pattern. Every new environment has to either be heaven or hell. Every person either villain or savior. Amberlynn never just exists with people. She uses them to fix her, to fund her, and to justify herself. She's claiming she found light in Crystal, that she was saved, transformed, motivated by love. And in no time at all, we'll see her looking elsewhere. Because this isn't about love, it's about convenience. Amber doesn't form bonds, she forms lifeboats. Crystal was simply the next one in reach, and before long even Crystal isn't enough. We know what's coming. The screeching giggling, the Snapchatting, the wide-eyed destiny obsession. The giddy giggles over a new girl while Crystal sits in the same room. This is Amber's cycle. Love, use, replace, repeat. The scent of Crystal's perfume won't even have faded from her oversized t-shirts before she's already fantasizing about a new passenger on a carousel of chaos. Romance isn't real to Amber. It's just another performance. And soon destiny will be her new stage prop. She then says that she skimmed over the gruesome parts of her story. Skimmed? She's been ranting into the void for half an hour. She's recounted everything from curtain strangling to suicide ideas to being thrown out of a state. And now she wants us to believe that this was the abridged version? No. This was theatrical. This was marketed. This was a manipulative info dump designed to serve one purpose, to make sure that no future criticism could ever be valid. Because how dare someone question her after everything she's been through? She ends by saying, I'm 22 and they're still the same. But I can be better. She's saying she'll be different, she won't be like them, she'll be strong, she'll rise. And for a brief moment I almost believe her. Until I remember she said this at 22 and now in her mid-30s she's worse. She's more selfish, more manipulative, more smug, more dishonest, more destructive, and fully committed to being a professional victim. These videos weren't a journey of growth or a document of history. They're just a training montage for all her future excuses. The real tragedy isn't that Amber has had a hard life. The tragedy is that she just refuses to learn from it. She took trauma and sculpted a mask. She took abuse and sculpted a defense. She took sympathy and sculpted immunity. These videos weren't a cry for help. They're emotional propaganda. But we shouldn't be fooled. And that concludes Amberlynn Reid's grand tragedy. Tears, convenient omissions, all neatly packaged to serve one purpose. Immunity. And these videos are the foundation of the Amberverse. She built her platform on the pity of strangers, weaponized her pain to buy time, to buy silence, to buy loyalty. But as we've seen, and as we will continue to see, there's no growth, no healing, no arc, only repetition. And while she clings to Crystal in these final moments, declaring love and newfound purpose, we already know what's coming. A new obsession, a new escape. Because she doesn't build relationships, she builds exits. And coming up, the squats will creak on, and the mask that she's built from the trauma will start to crack. This saga is far from over.